Christy Whitman with the Quantum Success Show, where you can get your information and inspiration to create your desires. And I am super excited to interview today Shanna Lee. She is a #1 best-selling author of The Soul Frequency, Your Healthy, Awakened, and Authentic Life. And she also has an amazing podcast that I was just interviewed on, or actually the council was interviewed on yesterday, called The Soul Frequency Show. And it's based on leading conversations on how to raise your energy frequency and creating a life founded on truth and alignment. So Shanna, I'm super excited to get into our conversation today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here too.
Absolutely. So what made you, tell us about what got you to where you are today, what your journey has been to really understand about energy and frequency and all that.
Yeah. So, it was not where I was ever looking in my life. So I had built a large career in the real estate sector. I spent most of my life just trying to build the American dream and really going after what I thought would ultimately fulfill me and make me happy. And after I got to a certain point in my life and kind of had checked off many of the boxes, I realized that I was completely lost to how fulfillment occurs. That obviously, right?
Our stories are so similar. I'm like going, oh my God, that's my story. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And so, what a lot of people thought was outward success, and they were looking at me going, wow, your life's so amazing. And the more that happened, the more I felt disconnected from it. And I felt like I had built a life that wasn't who I was. And it was the weirdest, scariest feeling, because it's hard to unwind a life. I was well into my adult life, and it seemed crazy and wild to think about unwinding what I had created. And yet I knew that I was going to have to. And I became pregnant at the time with my son. And that was a turning point in me realizing that how was I going to look him in the eyes and tell him that he should be happy or fulfilled when I hadn't even discovered that for myself as his mother. And so it sent me on a journey. I was basically called to Sedona while I was pregnant. I went there. I had some incredible, very mystical, spiritual experiences there. And I really have now come to know that that was the beginning. So it was a ceremonial beginning. And we just actually visited in January, which I was then shown that that was the end of this transformational period. So it was an 8-year period. It was from 2012, basically, to now. And I've just been on a magic carpet ride in this experience of opening up to, different dimensions, like understanding, just getting a lot of wisdom and higher understanding, and being able to not only transform my own life with it, but then of course, to pass that on and be able to help others.
So when you talk about soul frequency, what does that mean to you?
So just like our fingerprint, we all have our own unique energy. So that is our soul frequency. It's like our energetic fingerprint. And that also came as a download at one point when I was trying to, I basically can look into somebody's energy system and see where limiting beliefs were created, how those beliefs were created, and how they're affecting current day. So it's almost like, I call it looking inside a computer, right? Like looking inside our programming and seeing where these connections lie. And so as I started to do this work, as it started to come through me, I really didn't expect to discover this work. It was something that started happening. In the early days of my career, I was helping people with holistic health. And I would be sitting in an office with somebody, and I would start seeing this like inside of their computer system. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I was slowly shown like, this is what you're seeing. And so I started just trying, right? What I was guided to do, which was disconnect what was like programming today that wasn't beneficial. So patterns in and of themselves aren't bad, but we just have certain patterning systems that are not beneficial to our current day reality, the things that we say that we want. And so I started disconnecting some of these pattern systems, and it started really changing people's lives. And one of the things that rose to the surface was people feeling profoundly connected to a purpose, like their purpose. So that started coming in the room time and time again, didn't matter who I was working with. And I was like, wow, we're not supposed to find purpose. Like purpose just is, but we have these veils to it, right? And we have to disconnect the parts that are not in truth and really be able to see like, okay, why did I decide to come here? Why am I here? What wants to be created? What needs to be released to create that? And so it just started to evolve. And then at some point I was like, I cannot talk about food ever again. Like, this has nothing to do with that. There's something else being born. And so I was being shown all of this, and I feel like I was in training while I was training other people. So I was being trained by a higher source, where to go, what to say, how to do it. I mean, I remember being in session and even saying things and thinking, I would never say that to somebody. And yet they would have this reaction like, oh my gosh, that was so impactful. Like, thank you for saying that. And I'm like, I'm not sure I said that, because my personality would not say that. So it was just been an interesting, incredible ride.
Amazing. That's incredible. That's so cool. That isn't it such a gift? Because like now I don't do much without the council, right? Like, they come through and it's like they do all the work. I get to just be along for the ride. But to be able to see someone and help someone in that way, it's such a true gift to be able to see beyond what they can see, and to help them move beyond where they can go, because they're in their limited thinking and they're living that story, living that imprint, and not be able to rise to that higher place, at least not even know how to go to that higher place. And having someone like yourself come in and show them really where the limitations are, because it's true, like you said, it's like we don't have to go get a purpose. We have a purpose. We don't have to go get abundance or success or love or well-being. We are that. But it's the stuff that imprints on top of it, like you were saying, the veils, right? It's like the stuff, the gook on top of it. And as long as you just release that and you get back to the natural flow, then you're in our divine design of health and well-being, and of success, and of love, and of abundance, and like you're saying, purpose. So it's really amazing what you do. What is your most amazing experience that you've had, as far as like someone came to you, help them release a block, and what transpired for that person?
So I have a client, like always comes to mind when someone asks me a similar question like this. She was an owner of a very large company, a $90 million company, and she was an artist on the side. And when I met with her, I saw that, they were going to sell this company. She was thinking about it, but I saw that it was going to happen. And this company was going to sell, and that it had been her whole life to build this company. And it literally, she wasn't married, she didn't have children, like she had given her life to this. And so, sometimes we come up on the doorstep of transformation or big changes in our life. And I just saw that if she didn't change things, she was going to it would be like falling off a cliff for her, right? Like she would go into depression. She would not, she would not make this transition smoothly. So when I first started working with her, I just started to say, what is it that you want to do? And things started to evolve. And she, in a very short amount of time, just really started connecting with her own guides and angels. And, all this information started coming through for her. And now she sold the company. She's a full-time artist, having great success, made the transition totally simply, has a man in her life that she's going to marry, which had always, relationships had been a struggle for her. And it was just, there were things she had to see at the beginning that were challenging and that she felt fearful of. And we just walked through that. And she is living an entirely different life. And that's one of the things I tell people is we are in prime time for choosing our reality. Like I call it reality jumping. Like we can reality jump to a different frequency of information, different frequency of our being, like more so than we realize. And there is an energy on the planet that's allowing us to do this, where I don't think we could do it 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like we can today. And, most people are born into a certain frequency and they don't ever leave that frequency. And what we have available, I really call it a technology on this planet at this time, is to be able to choose our reality. And so we just I align people with my frequency and I take them to a different possibility cloud. So I show them, here's what another reality looks like that is possible for you. And let's align to this if this feels good to you. So then I'm just helping them align to that energy. And as you know, when you align to that frequency, then new opportunities step in, new people step in. It's like, you don't have to try to do anything. If you're aligned to a frequency, it's going to create this reality world around you, right? It's going to bring certain things towards you. And so we did that with her, and it's just been so gratifying. And she, you know, she tells me all the time, like, I can't even believe I'm living this life. Like, I can't believe this is my life. And so it's so gratifying to hear her story.
That's so cool. Isn't it so great to be able to see beyond, like we were talking about, and then have a client that, because we can only do what we do.
Yeah.
But it's the client that has to do the work and has to be willing to raise their frequency and meet that frequency or vibration, is usually what I say. Same thing. But meet that vibration and sit there consistently to have a new reality come. And I love that. It's like, I got this visual of you sharing. It was like cloud jumping.
Yeah.
Like
that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. I'm like, well, let's see what probability clouds are out there. Like, let's see what we can connect with. And, you know, I think it's funny because a lot of people have the dualism of what's right or wrong, like living a right life versus a wrong life. And so I try to explain to people, like, it's not really right or wrong. It's like, what do you want? Right?
Yes.
Because no probability, it's all neutral. Like, nothing is better than the other. It's really just looking at, same with programming, right? Like, our patterns and our programming, it's just, what do you want to be experiencing? And let's disconnect the things you don't want to be experiencing. We don't have to get into all this, whether it's good or bad or positive or negative. It's just that's where it comes down to your soul frequency. Like, what does your energy feel good in, right? Where do you naturally feel the flow? And a lot of my work goes back to childhood and our, you know, primary relationships and things like that, because so many times we are living in the frequency of someone else that we were birthed to, and we're living according to their programming and patterns, and we haven't even discovered our soul frequency, you know, and we haven't even discovered like what it is that feels good to our soul. And so it's really important to piece that apart. And when people first connect with their own energy, it's like, whew, oh, wow, like this feels home. Yeah, like coming home. It's so good.
So beautiful. So what made you create the podcast that I was on yesterday? It's the Soul Frequency podcast. You guys can find her on Shanna on iTunes and Spotify and all those different places where you have podcasts. But what made you, what called you to create that podcast, and for what reason? What is really the impact that you're wanting to make with that?
So I started just feeling, I got this big calling to do just interviews. So at the time, this is back, I started the podcast in 2017. In 2016, I just started doing Facebook Live interviews and inviting people on, because they were like, you need to share the information, and you need to, you know, bring other people on to share their information, like create this hub of information. So I started doing it. And what was fascinating is even people I'd known for years that I was friends with on Facebook started transforming from those. They started reaching out, like people I'd gone to high school with, and people that, you know, I just known in different chapters of my life. And so I felt like in a personal way too, I was touching the lives of the people that I had personally known, along with many other people that started joining in. And at a certain point, then they said, you need to do a podcast. Like, it needs to be permanent, meaning like there needs to be a permanent record of these conversations, which is what's so cool about podcasting, is you can go back years and listen to, you know, episodes. And so it was very much like, start a podcast. I reached out to my assistant. I said, we're going to start a podcast. There was no plan to it. There was just like, do this now, right? No launch, no nothing. So we just started, and we started, I think it was July 29th, 2017. And we started just very imperfectly putting out episodes. I you know, the first episode, I just kind of shared my journey and just said, come with us, you know, listen in, and we're going to do this. And so we just started. And then at a certain point, I was guided to do these short episodes called sessions, which are 5 to 10 minute quick shifts on a topic. And so we started doing those. And so we put out, you know, an interview episode every week, and then the sessions episode. And it's just been extraordinary, because I feel like everybody should have this information, right? Mm-hmm. And so I get tons of messages, like in DMs, of people just saying, like, I go right to those sessions episodes when I have had a bad day, right? Or I need a quick shift in this topic. And so we never know whose life it's touching. We don't get to hear from everybody, but I feel like it's my way of just honoring the information that comes through and sharing it as widely as I know how to.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah, you're right. You just never know who is listening and how it's affecting them. And even though that person may never reach out, you know, really, I heard of someone that's been in my email community since 2007, and finally, you know, reached out to me. I think it was about a year ago, and was professing all this gratitude, and I had no idea she existed and what my work had done for her. And so it's just a matter of, we have a lot of coaches that are in my community, a lot of authors, a lot of people that are creating impact as well. And I just tell them, get your message out there, get your voice out there, because there's people that are going to hear from you that aren't going to hear from me, or that aren't going to hear from Shanna. And you just never know who's listening and how your information is going to impact them, or how your light is going to impact them, especially now more than ever with everything that's going on. I mean, we need to stand together as light workers. And as the council is saying, it's like, as this new light comes down onto the planet, the darker energies must release. And so it's folks like us that are going to stand arm in arm and, be that light and be that shine for those people that need that arm up, to know that they do create their own reality. And as you were saying, can literally jump from cloud to cloud, from reality to reality, from vibration to vibration, and make their inner vibration become their outer reality. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell everybody how they can find you on your podcast, and we'll put a link underneath the video as well. And any other things that you want to share?
Perfect. Yeah. Our online hub is The Soul Frequency, SOUL frequency.com. And then I'm on Instagram a lot at The Soul Frequency. And then the podcast is The Soul Frequency Show.
Awesome. Thank you, Shanna. You're amazing. I appreciate you so much for being here and for shining your light. And for everybody that's listening, leave us a comment. What are you taking away? What are you wanting that you didn't realize that you wanted before? Excuse me, that you're, that you're realizing that you now want, and that you are now moving into that different vibration. And if you just have that visual that I have, that you get to jump from cloud to cloud, if you're taking that quantum jump, and it's just that easy, and it is, what is it? What's the cloud that you're moving towards? And let us know that. Leave us a comment, and have an amazing week, everybody. I appreciate you. Bye. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. Leave me a comment below, and be sure to share and tag your friends. And be sure to check out my other videos here and on this site.